Chapter 38, Life in the Big Apple. As they continued riding towards Uptown, Latoya began to grow weary of where Michael was taking her. Michael, I don't want to... Michael, I don't know what business you have with Madboy, but I don't think it's a good idea to be going to Manhattan, replied Latoya finally. Michael sighed and stood by his mission. Michael, you know Uptown isn't any safer than the rest of the city, right? Come on, Latoya, it's safer than where we were at, responded Michael. But Michael knew damn well Latoya was right about that matter. Driving over the Williamsburg Bridge, Michael looked towards the Manhattan skyline and smiled, but as mentioned, the Big Apple was still no place for one to be feeling safe. Since Michael had gone to prison, things had not been the same. The crime rate all over the city, and really all over the country, had continued to grow in a daunting pace, but so had its economic structure. And with the rise of the yuppies along with the gangs, there was now an interesting mix of the two, where they were both managing to do business side by side. Nothing you'd see on the surface, but if you were to check out the criminal underbelly, you'd be seeing a vastly uglier scene. Of course, Manhattan was still New York City's jewel, so nothing would be apparent on the surface except for all the bulls around that were pretending to be keeping things in order. But as for the underground, shady deals and business practices, and the employment of two-bit criminals that were willing to make some extra dough catering to the high-ups, best example of how rotten the Big Apple has gotten, we need to then take a good look at its core, to the heart of the matter and the heart of the city, and that being Central Park. If you're looking for the best example I can give, expressing how bad things have gotten, this is the place to start. In all of New York City, Central Park was the last place anyone wanted to be after the sun had set. Besides the type of characters Central Park always attracted at night, there was now this urban legend about there being these groups of guys called the Night Slashers that stalked the night, making anyone who wandered in accidentally regret ever doing so. Truly regret, for say what you want to say about the cockskulls or the monkey fuckers, at least they weren't some crazy pagan cult looking to do human sacrifices. Hell, Central Park, as mentioned, has never been the safe place at night. But once these jokers moved in, that's when you started to see all the other whack jobs, flashes, perverts, and thieves come rushing out in horror of what the Night Slashers were all about. Once they moved in, all the other rats moved out. And the thing was, nobody was willing to do anything about it. Since they weren't a group you'd find out in the open, and since, supposedly, still just an urban legend, meaning they might not have even existed. As long as they stayed hidden in the park, the police weren't willing to go in to deal with them, personally. A person might ask themselves then, why would anyone allow such evil to continue in the heart of the city? But fact of the matter was, the city and all those Armani suits sorta insisted on it. Truth of the matter was, Uptown was now just as much of a dangerous place as anywhere else in the city. For in those skyscrapers, those castles in the sky, there was a different sort of gangland warfare being waged amongst the corporations, being waged amongst the suits. Fuck up in Uptown and you got gagged, bagged, and dropped in the middle of Central Park at midnight. For this was also the entertainment hour for the Gordon Geckos living it up on Fifth Avenue, as they be partying it up there on the roofs of their chateaus, and watch with their telescopes as a co-worker of theirs would be chased by scythe-wielding maniacs dressed up like it's always Halloween. It was simply disgusting what the city had become during the span of time Michael had been in. You know, I also remember Cecilia, and I do miss her too for the short periods of time we had together. Fleeting fucking moments, but still. Being an Italian girl from the Bronx, she had that love-hate thing over arguing in that "if I'm lying, I'm dying" accent of hers. And I don't know what it is I find about Italian women complaining that turns me on, but it does. There's so much fire and passion spewing out of them, because what they really want is a man to show them right. I remember Cecilia would be churning up a maelstrom of spit and brimstone at me, thinking I was one of those dickless Italian boyfriends of hers that only knew how to express themselves by beating her. She'd go off on me, embittered about something or another for a while straight, calling me all sorts of names and complaining about this and that, and I'd listen, and I find it sexy. After a while, I just smile at her, get down on my knees, and start showing her my cunning linguist skills. That there would then completely throw her off, and it was like she had never had a man go down on her before. I mean, dickless Italian boyfriends, although they scare me though, keep claiming they're related to someone that works for John Gotti just to make themselves look tough and formidable. And I can't help but to get all afraid I might get whacked and hung in some freezer if I said something wrong to them. Even though I know I can't take most of them, since they're all mostly a bunch of spaghetti slurping fat fucks so unfit, thought Michael, but then went back to Sicilian and Italian women. But anyways, I'd be eating that rug out like a vacuum cleaner, and the funny part was how she'd continue bitching me out, but after a bit, her bitching would slowly transition into moaning as she'd start singing a different tune, crying out in opera. Now that there was some sweet heavenly music to my ears. Boy, do Italian women go ballistic when someone is munching on their carpets, too. Never seen nor heard a woman weep and moan so much in my life. But then again, there was also... Michael, there's cops behind us. What? What if they stop us? And I mean, you know how they are, too, right? Let's just turn back. This isn't worth it. It really wasn't worth it either. For another detail to that urban myth was the police had developed a nasty habit of creating their own form of off-the-books justice, one of them which involved the night slashers. Piss off the cops enough and you also find yourself in the middle of Central Park with a bag over your head, handcuffed behind your back. In prison, Michael would sometimes catch the guards talking about some snuff tape that was being passed around, or some cockskull running for his life and plowing face first into a tree as the night slashers cut up and swarmed in for the kill. Were those videos real or were they fake? I don't know. Oh, thank God we're in Chinatown now, cried out LaToya. The bulls at this point stopped pursuing the two and turned back. Yeah, we're in Chinatown, but let's not get too excited until we reach 1999. Michael, I don't know if I want to continue anymore. This is all just too much for me. Don't worry, okay? Everything will be fine. Michael then realized something. Considering the fact that he had now dragged LaToya all the way out here, he was definitely responsible for what might happen next. Even though LaToya was a regular in Uptown, she was usually escorted here in a limo, drinking champagne with a couple of suits, not by some crazy Mick straight out of prison, riding around on a stolen chopper with vengeance in his eyes and blood on his shirt. I ain't that bad though, am I? I mean, I know I'm crazy and stupid, but I'm no Freddy Krueger, right? Michael also then realized that maybe the reason why LaToya was allowing him to drag her all this way was because of that complex of hers, always allowing the men in her life to have their way with her, make her come along where she didn't fit. She went from being a well-established nurse to being pimped out by a bunch of sex fiends calling themselves the nymphomatics. Michael thought about how far she had fallen after losing her job in the hospital, needing money, and turning towards escort service. And now, here they were, and Michael was the escort. Realizing this, Michael started to feel like a royal piece of shit. If something was to happen, I don't want to think about it now. You pushed me away when we were safe at your place, LaToya. Now you're allowing me to take you places where I might not be safe. Oh, fuck. I don't want to think about that shit either. Then Michael thought about something else he could send her on. Stumpy getting his fat finger stuck in a rotary phone dial. No, that's funny. They were now in the heart of Chinatown. Michael had spent a lot of time here in the past, messing around with some pals of his that were part of the Real Americans. Yeah, just to make something clear right now, I do have a lot of acquaintances, but they're not exactly what you'd call friends. What it really is that macho bullshit where we just accept each other's presence because one or the other knows one or the other can fuck the other one up quick. Of course, with me around, well, there. So all these people I know aren't exactly friends, but really just people scared and unwilling to go beyond formalities. Fuck, I want some hair pie. Actually, the Real Americans were a Chinese outfit, really called the Low Jack City Kings. They just also called themselves the Real Americans to fuck with the heads of any white cops trying to arrest them. It was their way of giving racist white America the middle finger. A lot like the Black Jesus Army in Harlem, who had obviously come up with that name just out of spite and nothing else. A funny story about the BJAs was, a couple of years ago, some BJA graffiti artist had managed to pass himself off in Uptown as a billboard artist. At nighttime, he painted a giant image of Black Jesus looking pissed and pointing like Uncle Sam, and it was captioned, "Black Jesus wants all you white crackers dead." It was all over the news and all over America, and it was a riot. But then it got really ugly when idiot gun-toting rednecks from all over took it as a sign of a war being declared, a race war, and they stepped out of their houses condemning the blackies and spics and chinks as state enemies that needed to be punished, waving American flags and spewing their racist nonsense. The reactions from those yahoos were so bad and embarrassing that the city's mayor had to step out and apologize with reluctance for something he had nothing to do with. For Michael, words could not express how stupid it was seeing all that shit happen on prison TV.